Hey, folks, we are in the house. It's Blake McKenzie to my, where are you? On my right, my left? Sorry, because, it's the way it goes. But anyway, that's Blake there. Over is right there with a dumpster burner background today. That was State of the Union. I love this. Elbows up doesn't work when you're fighting Americans. We got bigger elbows. You sure do, United States. Afternoon and Princess Magapants. Princess Magapants Goosey. Oh, there's she's off. Sue's off doing stuff. So Blake and I are on our own today, but we're going to have a good show. We got a lot lined up. I just love this. How do you? Well, okay. I'll read the letter and then we'll just go from there, right? The president, the letter. Okay, let's just do the letter. Now I got to turn off certain things. Okay, let's share this. I always hope that my computer holds up. It's not really geared for a lot of windows being open. Can I? Yeah, nice and big. Trump's letter to Carney. Let's make sure you kids over here can see it nice and big. Sure, it's not bad. Trump's letter to Carney, that's the Prime Minister of Canada. Maybe going on vacation during a trade deal wasn't such a good idea, right? That's what I was talking about, Blake. The same idea. You got one on this.
Yeah.
Possible 35% tariffs on all goods, not just one thing or the other, 35 to start. So this was dated yesterday. The Right Honorable Mark Carney, he's on vacation right now. He may not have seen this.
Yeah. Does not appear to be going on an emergency return to Canada right now. So anyway, it must be not that much of a crisis.
Yeah, so Trump points out unfair balance in the tariffs between Canada and the U.S., fentanyl, the border issue with fentanyl trafficking, all that, not happy. Canada's dragged its ass on the whole thing. It's kind of fucked around, and I believe now it's about Canada is about to enter the find out phase. And so this is going to be very interesting. Where this goes, and there's a lot to this whole thing right now, because there's follow-ups to it.
There's all kinds. I mean, the Liberal Party has their entire social media apparatus out there.
Yeah.
Paid people, let's call them for what they are. They would not have any followers if they weren't paid to do it. On X and about every platform out there right now, because they just disappear. Then all of a sudden, when something they need to get in front of quickly, they send the cash out and the word out to all of their influencers to try and pretend that everybody's elbows up. So,
hey, everybody, want to thank anybody and everybody that's showing up. Wolfie, my good buddy Wolfie's in the house. Good to see you, Wolfie. So hot on the trails of this announcement, it's looking increasingly unlikely that the Carney government will be able to end the U.S. trade dispute while keeping its grip on supply management. Critics say Canada could gut supply management to appease Trump on the tariffs. So there's our cows, the dairy industry, highly subsidized in a monopoly. I don't know what the adverb for that is, if that's the word for it. But anyway, we got some problems there, and it's highly controlled. There's pictures where a dairy farmer may have produced too much milk as cows produce it, and they actually just throw this stuff out.
Yeah, dump it down the drain.
It's just criminal to me. To any sane thinking individual, is just criminal. So, Blake, two stories: the letter, the demands, Canada's response, where we are. I guess I'll do one more, and then I'll let you go on this because you got one here. Mark Nixon's comment on all this. I'll open that up as well.
Yeah, it's basically a little broader on the
on the issues that
Garrettson's comment, but this is an actual news story today from CBC, which was very interesting listening to it. Now it's 7 minutes. We don't need to listen to the whole thing, but essentially, Carney is gone. He's nowhere to be seen. He gets a few posts up. He's on vacation. We're supposed to be in the greatest crisis in Canadian history. And where's our prime minister? Somewhere, Europe, maybe, hanging out, setting up deals, spending another $5 billion for the Ukraine, apparently, talking about adding a Canadian funding, a headquarters in Paris, for a few $1 billion. So, I mean, it's just, the chaos. But if you watch this, what's really interesting about the story is that the CBC is listening to an expert. You think at the beginning, by listening to the guy, it's going to be, okay, here we go. Another guy, of course, painting that the Americans are all wrong. He's actually talking about the fact he's a border agent that is now, I think, a professor or something. He's done all his research. And he's talking about how the cartels have set up shop in Canada and that the fentanyl problem is a problem in Canada, and that Canada can't get a handle on it. He's saying there's only 500 people in Canada that are chasing thousands.
Yeah, but it's even worse than that. It's worse than that because our politicians say there is no problem. There is no fentanyl crisis. Canada is not doing anything. 0% that from Canada is entering the United States. It's a made-up thing. It doesn't exist. A bunch of ostriches ahead in the sand. Do you want me to play this clip at all?
Yeah, let's play a minute of it. I think it's a good insight to what the professionals or the experts in Canada are saying about it.
All right, let's roll it. Roll the tape.
That would be starting August 1st. He says Canada hasn't, quote, done enough to stop fentanyl trafficking.
Tell me when to kill
We're now learning Prime Minister Mark Carney will be discussing the issue at a cabinet meeting next Tuesday and a First Minister's meeting on July 22nd. Of course, we will track both of those for you as well. But for more on this story, we've reached Kelly Sundberg. He is a former officer with the Canada Border Services Agency and a criminology professor at Mount Royal University. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so again, we are seeing this claim from the U.S. president that fentanyl is pouring into the U.S. from Canada, and that was in his letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney that he posted online. Can you give us a sense of what the picture is like when we're talking about fentanyl going south of the border from Canada?
Like he'll say there's nothing.
Well, we have seen change in the tactics of the producers of fentanyl. So we're seeing the precursors coming into Canada through our largely unregulated they are regulated, but unpoliced ports. Our ports of entry are wide open, and we're seeing a lot of the precursors coming, and then we are seeing manufacturing of fentanyl in Canada. This is more of an issue with respect to the fact that we're seeing more production in Canada for the Canadian consumption. Some of that is, of course, going to be going to the United States. The problem is that we have a domestic problem that is being exploited as an excuse for the actions of the United States, in my view. It is true that because of our lack of immigration screening, especially back until 2018-ish, 2018, we've seen a large number of the Mexican cartel members who have set up shop and become quite entrenched in our Canadian cities. Now, the government has argued that reports from a few years ago from reports were incorrect. I in fact believe the reports before I believe the government. I know that the government only has roughly 500 people who are tasked with looking at addressing the issue of cartel members coming to Canada, contrary to our immigration law, and these officers work Monday to Friday, 8 to.
I mean, he's basically saying, well, it's mainly for domestic consumption problems in Canada. Bullshit. He just even admitted the immigration is out of control. The cartels, they have no idea how many here, but they're setting up shop. They're not going to set up shop in Canada just for Canada. They're not. They're going to, this is to take it across the border.
Yeah.
You can't control the ports of entry, you're saying. That there's nobody policing all that stuff coming in from China into our ports. I think what I heard is they're checking 1 out of every 1,000 containers. So you have no idea what's being shipped in those containers from China. And you can guarantee, and you're listening to him, and he's making sense. He's saying all the points, but then he kind of downplays it a bit. He goes, well, it's mainly a domestic problem, not really an American. No, it is. It is 100%. They're setting up shop on this side because we have a longer undefended border than Mexico, and a lot of forests and a lot of places people can just slip through forests with backpacks, much harder to see than open desert plains where, you're going to pick up heat signatures and see them actually moving much easier. So, I think this is bullshit. Again,
Yeah.
Well, the CBC, you can listen to, they have to admit that they can't lie that blatantly because it's a fact. They're seeing the fentanyl crisis, and the cartels are going, well, we're getting the shit kicked out of us on our border. So let's go up through Canada and operate from there because Canada's got lax laws and lax money laundering
so
laws.
You and I, okay, so let's cut to the quick. So we know there's a problem. We know drugs are going across. The Americans are right. Trump's right to go hit with the tariffs because he's fighting back. We know that with the supply, we've showed that clip or that meme out there, that article from Juno News saying that Carney, unless he gets the what do you call that? The supply network system.
That's a second issue, right?
That looks like it's got to go on the fire. It's got to be thrown on the dumpster fire behind you as well. It's got to be burned. And because that's the one where we've got the 400% tariffs on U.S. Dairy coming into Canada. Now, on some of that, I kind of agree with when it comes to food products and foodstuffs, because some of the agents and the chemicals and the shit that the Americans allow on their food, we don't allow on ours. And, you know, I've always, as a Canadian, traditionally speaking, have felt very comfortable with our food and that, DDT notwithstanding. But, you know, this modified, growth stuff, the crap that Bill Gates all about, vaccinating animals and all this kind of horrendous stuff, chemicals and one thing or the other. And different.
Well, it sounds like RFK Jr. is on top of that. He's going after to kind of bring those standards into play. But I think Canada, on the other hand, though, has not been playing fair. Now they could raise up some counter beef, if you want to call it. No pun intended, because I think beef is a big issue. But that the Americans do subsidize their farmers a fair bit. There's big subsidies that go to American farmers. Talk about ethanol is a big one for corn production. And there's ways that they're getting subsidies. So, I mean, that could be easily traded back and forth and say, okay, where can we do it? Also, the Canadian dollar, right? We have right now, or the Canadian dollar, I think, is sitting around 30 cents difference, right? It's going to probably cost you about 35 cents to buy extra for Canadians to buy a US dollar. So, 35 cents or 35% roughly on a tariff is putting us on a balance of currency exchange. So the currency exchange deal for Americans to buy evaporates, right? So now we're on the same playing field. I think the 35% says on the currency side alone. But the fact is that we have these cartels, and they're market cartels, the dairy boards. The dairy board, the monopoly has been controlled out of Quebec. It is purely for Quebec. It's about I think they said it's around a $33 billion industry in Canada, because it's not just milk, like in the cartons, but it's ice cream, it's cheese.
Dairy.
Anything you're using dairy, yogurt, dairy made products that dairy's connected to in restaurants everywhere. Additional bakeries, whatever. They have to buy cream to make whipping cream, whatever it is. They're making all that side. So the problem is that it's actually a tax on Canadians, and we've all known it. We've paid how many people, when you go on the Canadian border down to the U.S. border, all those grocery stores are making a fortune and surviving off of Canadians paying 50% or less for milk and all that, just crossing the border to do that. So the point is, Canadians are being ripped off by their own government by supporting a market dairy board that has been created for keeping Quebec happy. And it's time for the rest of the province to say, screw you. We're not going to allow $200 billion in trade losses over tariffs over supporting Quebec's dairy farms. Forget it. It's time to end it. It's ridiculous. And it provides a discount to Canadians. Finally, we would see a drop in food prices because we don't have a monopoly in dairy.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens. We know that dairy is a big problem. I got this as an incredible thing to share with you. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Kenny Rogers, and this is Jackass. Rogers, and this is the dairy challenge. Each one of these jackasses has some dairy products in front of them, and then the winner is the one who finishes it first. The cheers. Let's get going.
Okay, with dairy contest. Having some milk.
I was raised on the dairy, bitch.
So we know no one really survives the dairy contest, but hopefully suppose Kenny Rogers with the dairy contest. But no, what I want to look at here is just kind of where does all this end up? What's the long ball? You know, you're throwing the Hail Mary. We're going to throw it all the way down the field and see what the idea. Do you think we're going to see this 35% come to pass? Do you think that, are the elbows going to go down? People are going to cave? What the hell's going to happen here? I think that unless Canada does something extremely drastic, we're FUBAR. And people have been saying I saw one post, a guy saying this is exactly how Hawaii joined the union, through economic pressure. And They basically said, we can't stand off here in the middle of the Pacific fighting America. We might as well join the party. And, they got statehood and the whole thing. So, just give me your feeling on that. I think we're getting squeezed. I see the 51st state in our future. It's kind of a long ball look at it. Whether it's economic, it's got to be whether we're made into a territory like Puerto Rico, or Guam, Guam. But somehow we're going to be connected to the United States in a way that we aren't right now. There's no bloody way Trump is going to allow a commie, antagonistic enemy nation to American interests sit comfortably on its border. They sure didn't allow it in 1962 with the Cuban Missile Crisis. So go ahead, Blake.
Well, and even in the FLQ crisis, apparently Nixon had troops lined up on the border ready to invade if something went sideways. So, they did that as a precautionary measure because Trudeau declared the War Measures Act. So
Pierre Trudeau, not Cheskin, folks.
Yeah, Pierre Trudeau, the senior. We had our own Bush-like dynasty here.
Yeah,
so
really. Yeah.
Maybe ours was a little crazier, but yeah, similar. But the fact is that Canada is a hodgepodge of regions cobbled together that don't get along.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the reality. We're not a nation united. They try to create a flag that everybody could salute. But they realized quickly Canada is ripe for the taking. And I'm not talking about the U.S. I'm talking about ripe for the taking from interests, maybe a little bit from the U.S., a lot from Europe, a lot from China. We're weak. And we have a monopolistic type of system where there's, one political party takes all. It's very easy to manipulate. With the U.S., it's harder because you have three different distinct jurisdictions politically between the legislative branch, the executive branch, and your judicial branch of governments, which makes it and the states also have those similar layers. Canada, they don't. It's one layer. It's the prime minister calls everything federally. It's the premier and their cabinet that calls it all. They appoint everything. They control everything. So if you're a foreign influencer, you can get in there and you get the right people in your place. And that's why it's not a joke that we're called China. It's because China has been manipulating Canada for about 30 years. It's got their roots deep into our both political, cultural institutions. And they're right into our universities. They're right into our science. They're into every aspect of it. And which is interesting because you'll note there's no elbows up to China. And China is also tariffing Canada and destroying our farmers who create canola. They're going after our metals, all that kind of everything as well. So it's definitely a multi effort that Canada has weakened itself so greatly. And we have a kleptocratic, bureaucratic class. These people are in it for themselves. They're not in it for the country. They're pocketing billions, not millions, billions amongst themselves, raiding the coffers, doing the kind. I think they think the end is near. I think Carney is. I still going back to my original belief. I think Carney is the guy that's been brought in as the receivership guy for Canada. He's come to manage the receivership of a country that is going bankrupt.
Yeah.
And Alberta is already flouting what they're going to do. They're talking about taking back everything. They're going to collect all their revenue on taxation, not going to let the federal government collect it, much like Quebec. They're already setting deals with Trump. They're saying, we'll do it. The XL pipeline is already underway. Trump approved it. Boom. He's approved the lease to get that pipeline built to Alberta. It's happening. I mean, it's only a matter of time. If Canada doesn't get its shit together and say no more protective regional protections, no, Ontario doesn't get to call all the shots either. You're either going to be a balanced country, you're going to mirror a U.S. style political system, or you might as well join them. Because other than that, without the U.S., we'd be invaded and we'd be taken over by a real hostile country, which would be like China or Russia or someone like that.
Okay, and also just one last comment on that. Of course, the way Canada was formed as a nation, it goes east-west, but truly it should have been a north-south proposition.
Yeah.
Because geographically, weather, etc., we have a lot more in common with Washington. This whole area, Cascadia, information, New Caledonia, this sort of idea out here for us. A lot in common with Washington, unfortunately for us, a lot in common with Washington, Oregon, California. Of course, these are these blue enclaves, but a lot of red in there too, out in the country. It's just kind of in the city centers where you get real concentration of Democrat blue.
We're still part of that antiquated colonial power tied to the UK, and that's why Canada exists, is so England could maintain control of territories.
But that whole raison d'etre has gone to hell in a
handbasket. That's what I'm saying. It's gone.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to exist like that anymore.
Correct. Absolutely.
Post-national state now, right?
Yeah, and they were right on that. Justin Trudeau was correct. He said this is what we are, and he's absolutely right. I sadly am forced to agree with him on that point. Okay, this is kind of fun. Laura Loomer taking it to Gavin Newsom. Of course, ICE did a big raid, and the way the left has portrayed this is that these are innocent farm workers, hardworking farm workers, the breadbasket of America. Just like it's Norman Rockwell, paint me a picture. But nothing could be further from the truth. It turned out to be some sort of grow up. Anyway, I'll share the image and we'll discuss and have some fun with this. Democrat Senator Ruben Gallego is defending the use of illegal alien child slave laborers.
I'll go well with their union buddies.
Is defending the use of illegal alien child slave laborers on marijuana farms in California. I guess that's to be expected from a senator whose father was an illegal alien drug dealer from Mexico with ties to the cartels. Gallego is depraved. California weed cultivated by illegal child labor. So they had this big bust in California. ICE went in there, and the way it was being painted, children are crying. But it turns out that 300,000 illegal, like children, undocumented, unaccompanied minors have crossed the border by estimates. And I think they've captured or recaptured about 10,000 of these undocumented, unaccompanied minors in America. And thank God, because when you have child trafficking, well, we got all sorts of trouble with child trafficking, not only in labor. Who's protecting these kids with the labor? All the rest of it's an underground economy, and the government is not getting its fair shake. And then the American taxmaker, really importantly, the government is the people. Okay, that's the way to view it. And the American people are not getting their just due. In fact, I heard a great comment. In fact, I think I got a link on that one too. Hope I got it. 40 billion saved. Yeah, this is just kind of the idea where all these monies go. There is something to it. So let's take a look. Huge news. Trump administration removes 40 billion in taxpayer benefits for illegal aliens. they were getting that much capital, just absolutely shocked and stunned, right? Free tuition, food assistance, Head Start, workforce development grants. I'll let this little Fox News kid tell the story for us, Blake. We'll play the.
All right. Also today, the Trump administration is doing away with many taxpayer-funded benefits for illegal immigrants. Among some of those benefits ending, free tuition, food assistance programs, Head Start, access to federal workforce development grants. The White House says the move will preserve roughly $40 billion in benefits for American citizens.
Okay, so I mean that is that's $40 billion, not just for migrants, newcomers. They're saying, "Hey, I got my green card. I'm on my way for my citizenship. I love America so much." No, these guys are just immigrants that they're illegal. They shouldn't even be there. Yeah. And somehow the government money is finding the way in the hands of these people. And I suspect a lot more of that money, a small percentage is getting their hands. I think a larger percentage, because it's going to illegals. There's no way you can legally do that. So therefore, a lot of that money is not going to be accounted for. It's going to go whistling and disappearing in the hands of politicians.
Well, somebody was funding the massive operations of caravans to the border all during the Biden administration. So that money is still there in some shape or form. They said a lot of that, NGO money that just under U.S. aid basically is missing. I mean, to try and find it, it's in pots of money that has vanished into other countries used for purposes like this.
Yeah.
And the fact is, I mean, we saw this for a number of years where, but what they described as children, newcomers as children, they're like, oh, they're just children. And they're like 28 years old with us saying they're 14. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the question needs to be asked in California, again, Democrats, because you're generally union supported. Where are your unions in this? I mean, I thought the unions are, especially the public sector unions, are supposed to be all against child labor laws.
Oh, okay. So they obviously they lip service that. What's really going on with those unions?
Yeah, where are you guys?
I think they're getting their own payoffs, their own kickbacks, their own corruption. That's why they all go in and they're the kingmakers. Traditionally, unions should try and get a union endorsement. It's big news. It carries a lot of political clout. What we're finding in some cases, I know, I think it was the auto workers, the head of the auto workers in Detroit said, we're going to vote this way. And the base said it ain't going to happen. And the guy actually had to pull back his endorsement of Kamala Harris. I believe he went out and actually had to pull it back because he didn't get the support of the base. And people said, no fucking way is this going to happen. We're not playing that game.
Well, that is a cornerstone of labor laws with regards to unions supporting politicians, was to end child labor. And here they are, they're doing it. But you would think that the unions that are allied to the Democrats would love to unionize a high yield, valuable crops like weed and get right in there to control. Their guys are getting paid.
And of course, they have legalized some of it, but a lot of these marijuana operations are still illegal. And, there's nothing straight and clean about any of this.
Yeah.
All right. Let's, we don't just cover Canada and America or England. We try and go around. I got a story, one from Australia and one coming out of France. This one you had talked about earlier. This next story, it actually requires a little nuance, so we know exactly what's on the cards. But we'll bring it up to everyone's attention. So what have I got here? All right, concerned citizen on X. So it turns out Brigitte Macron is a man. Woman wins her case, is cleared of defamation based on evidence because she was right. But that's only the start of this really weird story. Women who claimed Brigitte Macron was born a male are, quote, cleared, big calves, Daily Mail reporting, of defamation. There's a lovely lady herself right there. And then the readers added the context. Let's read this. The ruling does not indicate that Brigitte Macron was born a man, but rather that false allegations are considered free speech and not deliberate defamation. Not deliberate defamation. I think that is an important distinction to be made as we cover this story. So, Blake, your thoughts on this thing? What's your gut instinct take? Now, you know a lot about trannies. Your up pal Dave is running around as Rachel, the exciting tranny. But what do you think?
But you're honest about it. You're upfront. So I mean, that's the thing. Like if they're supposed to be, everybody's supposed to be able to come out of the closet on who they are. Then why doesn't she come out and just say it? Or go either way. Say, I'm not. I'm a woman. It's okay, folks. There's nothing to see here. Or just come out and say, yeah, I'm a tranny, and Macron and I are a couple, and he's fine with that. And then the left should be all like celebrating, going, yeah, that's good. Libertarians should be happy as well. But the fact that there's this secrecy about it, but I think the worst part of this has nothing to do with that. Has the fact that he was like 13 or 14 years old.
Yeah,
relationship started to pick up, which is kind of a pedophilia question here now. I think needs to be more asked is like, what is the background of this relationship?
Yeah, what's the
exact? It is strange because I mean, had it been today and a brand new relationship, most of those people doing that would be vilified and thrown in jail, rightfully so. But but it is kind of strange that they have this long relationship that goes back to almost a grooming relationship.
That's even if she turns out to be a real biological female, it's still there's something weird going on.
There is something weird. That episode. I mean, apparently, that's more than one time. She, or whatever slaps him around a bit. So
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what more to say. We're living in the twilight zone, and I mean, people are saying that about Michelle Obama as well.
Okay, hold on, Big Mike. Let's hold on. So okay, so what do you think? What's your gut instinct tell you on the Macron situation? You think she's a guy?
I think that has more possibilities of truth than the Michelle Obama one. I'm not buying Michelle Obama. I don't think Big Mike's. I'm not. I don't know.
Okay, my, we got Obama going. My Michael,
my Sharona.
Yeah, well, there's clips of where he kind of slips up, calls him my Michael. There's a whole bunch of this stuff. There's a whole bunch of like Obama going, well, he's talking to a bunch of Kenyans. Well, I was born here. He's saying shit like this. It's absolutely nuts out there. So I think my own gut instinct tells you as a trans woman of color, I got to tell you, I think it's she's a guy, like it was a biological male that had the transition, did the stuff. The video where she sits down like a linebacker, that's bizarre. Even for the love of God, if you got once you get your vagina and stuff, believe me, ladies, you know what I'm talking about. It's just so much fun to cross your legs. Now, not like, what's his name? Governor Newsom. You see that picture that they're posting? Yeah. One leg's going way out there. People are going, who the hell sits like this?
Kind of like our former prime minister and his little.
If you've got a vagina, you're going to be sitting like that. I got to tell you. But anyway, it's just bizarre. So I think there's truth there. But the point is, what the ruling said is that the women that laid the charge can't be charged with defamation because they truly and sincerely within themselves believed that Brigitte was a guy. Not that she is, but that they believed she was. And so it's not even a case where they're out there trying to scam for money or sensationalize something just for the sake of doing it. These two women were convinced in and of themselves that Brigitte, and say what you will about Candace Owens, I'm not a big fan of Candace Owens. I'm going to be right out there. I don't follow her. I made a point of unfollowing her. She's a little out there. But she did some great investigative work on this whole Macron Brigitte story. And it's pretty fucked up. And if you dig in there just a little bit, and you find like she had a brother that's never been seen, and that she had kids from a previous marriage that nobody's seen. And it's a whole bunch of talk with no evidence, kind of like the Michelle Obama thing, where there's not a signal pregnant, no baby bump pictures of a Michelle anywhere. And then the two kids look like that they got Malik or whatever her name is, the daughter. They look just like this friends of theirs. That doesn't look anything, It's just nuts out there. So, but kind of an interesting story, and I'm happy for the two ladies and happy for free speech that they can voice their opinion on that. But
so there's still free speech in France, is what we're saying, hearing that.
Well, yeah, but for how long, Spock? For how
That's
long?
right.
I mean, let's take a look. Speaking of free speech, let's kill that one. Okay, let's do this. So, I mean, it's the same playbook is being used all over the place, boys and girls. Let me get back. Wrong button. Hang on. Here we go. Okay. The Australian larrikin is dead. I don't know what a larrikin is. Somebody in Oz can educate me on that. Larrikin is dead. The new hate speech laws can now classify any criticism as hate speech, even criticizing pedos. On top, if found guilty, there's a minimum of 1 year mandatory jail. 1 year mandatory, you got to go. Do not collect $200. Do not pass go. Go directly to jail. Press love heart if you loathe our politicians even more. So let's listen to this idiot and see how we get on, Blake.
And so equally, when I say that words matter when it comes to hatred against religious groups, words matter when it comes to hatred against groups of different sexuality and genders. And we have seen this. And when neo-Nazis can stand, in Melbourne, in the streets, and hold up a sign saying, destroy pedo freaks, because they are at an anti-trans rally and they are trying to say this about the trans community. We, I think, as a country, need to have some sense of, is that okay? And if we don't think it's okay, what are we going to do about it? And
well, what they want to do about it is lock you up minimum for a year. Now, I'm a fun-loving trans person myself. I don't give a fuck if somebody says, "Oh, you're a pedo." I said, "Well, the truth is, I'm not." So, sucks to you. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never. I don't give a fuck. No, it's a different level. If you accuse me of something and then I lose my job over it and it becomes a real, but if it's just some yokel out in the street with some sign going, get rid of the pedos and stuff, because you've got story time, drag queen story hour. And, the meme, speaking of memes, the meme goes out, well, how come these drag queens aren't out at the old age pensioners home reading to them? I'm 97 years old. I have no family. I'm nearly dead. I wish to God a tranny would come and read me a story. That would really make my day. And so, they aren't there. They're, hey there, little Sally, how old are you, dear darling? I'm 5. Well, you're just looking fine. And anyway, so, it's just kind of crazy that the focus is all on that. So, free speech, hate speech, what's your take on Australia's response to all this? Neo-Nazis, what the...
Well, they always point to somebody on the right. You notice that? It's never any of the radicals on the left, and it's all these laws come from radicals on the left. Yeah. It always does, because they can't stand anyone questioning their motives. But I mean, the point is, I think you hit the nail on the head with regards to the defamation conversation, right? Because literally, if you're targeting an individual and you're trying to destroy their life, their ability to make a living, whatever it might be, then you're legally susceptible. But if you want to attack an ideological kind of point of view or a way of life in general, not naming names, come on. That's ridiculous. That goes against the idea of being able to have critical debate about these ideas. And but this is a problem we're having in all the Western world right now, where we've got these far left lunatics. And I'm going to say it, these people are plants. They're both plants by individuals who want to control power, who are, again, gaslighting and saying they're the neo-Nazis when actually they are. So I think it's this massive gaslighting going on worldwide against people who are just like that RCMP officer who's a spokesperson talking about that anybody with traditional values should be viewed as an extremist. That is what we're up against. They are transvaluating speech. They're converting what was evil and awful and making it sound virtuous, and they're saying all those that used to be virtuous are now evil. And this is this bizarre 1984 what do they call it? Wrong speech that's been brought in place to gaslight into people believing that this is somehow a new virtuous way to act. But it's state sanctioned. You have to act a certain way. And this is what the insanity is tied to it. But I mean, these people are idiots. They're what Lenin would call useful idiots. They're placed in there with their ideas. And then there's the upperlings that are all about corporate control, monopolies, that are up in the higher level where they can utilize these laws to strip any competition, both at a local level, individuals, or ideas. And that's what I think Elon Musk talks about, the woke mind virus, why it's so dangerous, because it does lead to this sort of fascist type of system.
Yeah.
That takes away the arena of ideas, because the arena of ideas as an entrepreneur, as he is, and many other entrepreneurs, it's where you listen to so many different points of view that you get new ideas. That's how science works. You have multiple ideas coming in. It gets ground down for, the scientific method, and people find these new ways of doing things, both in industry, both in socially, but there's some norms that are completely under attack because it's against the majority. That's the point. If you need to subjugate the majority, you have to co-opt the majority beliefs and say, you guys are all the problem. You're the baddies, right? That's what they're saying. You're the baddies. Your beliefs are the baddies now. You had power before. You were the patriarchy. You're the colonialists. You're the settlers. You're the, what do they call them? Uninvited guests or uninvited persons now.
Yeah.
I mean, they got all these fucked up names they call everybody, but they don't stand there and look at the mirror themselves and say, we're responsible ourselves.
Do you know what's weird? I'm going to tell you something, man. I'm going to tell, I wish to God, like all the gaslighting they've done, they've really fucked it up, and they've been very successful in altering everybody's conscious. Okay.
Yeah.
I was watching, I like watching YouTube. Obviously we're on YouTube. We're simulcasting on X platform and YouTube. And while we're here, commercial, very briefly, thumbs up on the program and subscribe if you could. It does help us out. But what I want to talk about is I saw a clip of Room 222, Blake, Room 222. And it was like the old theme. And I go, God, I used to watch that all the time. Karen Valentine, Michael Constantine, the cast of that thing. And I used to like the show. I kind of liked it. I kind of didn't like it all at the same time. It was one of those kind of love-hate things with that show. I wasn't really the target audience. I was like 12 or 11, it was more a little older, but I liked it. I liked it because Karen Valentine was so perky and fun and likable. So anyway, I'm watching the intro to that show. They got black people on there. They got a Chinese couple walks by in the intro on this thing. Like somebody just said, here's the old intro to the show. And it's got groups of white kids, and it's a real mix, okay, on this college in Chicago. I think it takes place in Illinois. I could be wrong about that, or Indiana, maybe it's in India, whatever. The point is, I reflected back on how that show impacted me as a kid, 11, 12 years old. I got to tell you, God's, what is Scout's honor? I never noticed the races. I never even thought about it. It's just this show. But now I'm watching a show. I go, oh, there's a black guy. I find myself almost doing a head count on the races in the show. Why is that guy? Especially if it's one of these sword and sorcery things. My queen, I love you, your majesty. And it's like 1400. Anne Boleyn talks to one of her ladies in waiting. What's happening? And you go, what the fuck? It's just so you don't need it. And so it challenges reality, because that's not what it was. I mean, you're watching some Welsh program. I could, even my own class, I've shown my own class picture. There was me, the Indian, like Canadian Indian, red Indian. And then we had this East Indian kid, Davey was his name. I liked him. He was my best pal when we were little kids. Don't remember his last name. Probably couldn't pronounce it. But it was little Davey. I just loved him. And we were the only two kids of color in the whole class. That school in Burnaby, 12th Avenue School today, has maybe 2 white kids in the. They showed the class of 2010 or something. Many years ago I saw this, but it was long after I was there in the 1960s. Total, complete demographic change. And in fact, my old apartments at the time, they were called Sylvan Gardens in the 1960s. They became the Hillcrest apartments. I was there a couple of years ago. I went over to Van in the summer and I said, Sylvie, I want to go buy the old thing. They had some pools, 3 pools, outdoor pools that I went to as a kid. They're all boiled over, but the whole thing is now a place for newcomers. There is not a single white person in what was once a middle-class dwelling. It was bought by the government, and it serves as kind of this temporary housing system for newcomers now.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely, done a flip. It was like, bizarro world for me, a totally different demographic change. So I lament that. A film like Blazing Saddles,
yep.
the sheriffs, on all that, Kevin, are we black? Yeah, well, I am. I mean, Cleveland Little. And who's everybody cheering for? Cleveland Little. Who do you want to be in that show? Everybody wants to be the sheriff. He's the coolest guy in the whole picture.
Yeah.
And so, and the idiots are the race. All the racists are the bad guys in the show. It couldn't be more obvious. The fact that you can't make that movie today is a crime against ourselves because there's so much humor in it. And also in the world of just one-liners, just bantering about. Sue and I watched, we're on the Prime, Amazon Prime, so we're watching some Prime movie. We watched Revenge of the Pink Panther.
I love those movies.
Yeah, I think it was the Pink Panther Strikes Again. So it's like a 1975 thing. With Peter Sellers in the role, right? So Cato's there, and he goes, "Well, my little yellow friend, you couldn't even say that line today." I'm amazed that it wasn't even blacked out on Prime. I go, "Oh, my little," that they would overdo it or blank that out. We're robbing ourselves, we're hurting ourselves because we've allowed, and I'm talking to conservatives, because we've somehow allowed, because you know what? You can manipulate the conservative because they aren't racist, because they want to be kind and loving to their neighbor, because they're respectful, love your neighbor as yourself, regardless of race, color, or creed. It just says neighbor. Love them. Be kind to them. Right? Do unto others, you do unto you. Golden rule stuff. So it's easy. So we go, oh, I wouldn't want to offend for the world. So we shut up, voluntarily censor ourselves because, oh, God, I don't want to appear like that. That's awful. I won't do that. And so, because of that, then that allows the evil overlords with their hate speech laws, and the whole idea of hate speech. There is no such thing as hate speech, just speech that certain people hate.
That's right. That's the gaslight, right? It's the other way around. They're the ones with the problem. Nobody else is that speaks normally. But yeah, I love Mel Brooks. Mel Brooks is he's put out some classic movies. I mean, how many one-liners can you remember from Mel Brooks movies? Probably a lot more than some, Bagger Vance or some movie like that. I mean, there's maybe one other movie I know a bunch of one-liners from.
Put the candle dick.
I remember Spaceballs, right? What's the matter, Colonel Sanders? Are you chicken?
Oh, and then they have and then they're combing. What are you two doing? We're combing the desert. The two black guys with the afro pick. Holy smokes! All right, we got a big. This is one of the biggest stories going right now. Everybody's all interested. What the hell's going on with Epstein? Yeah. So this story here is out. A lot of people are talking about this one. Okay, so we want this one gone. Hang on. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Get rid of that. Hang on, Blake. Got to get the right link. Okay. This one here. All right, here we go. All right, boys and girls, let's Mongo straight. I watch it. I think the big fella's kind of sweet on you. Mongo straight. Okay. Anyway, here we go. That's a good one. Just in. Hold on. Make sure you kids can read it. Yeah, you can. Just in, FBI Director Dan Bongino took the day off after, quote, clashing with AG Pam Bondi at the White House over the Epstein files, according to Axios. Questionable source is a left-wing source, far left source. Be careful.
Yeah.
Proceed with caution. The alleged fight erupted after a 10-hour video was released with a minute missing. Some, quote, insiders believe Bongino quit. However, administration officials say he's still on the job, the outlet reported. Two sources familiar with Bongino's position say he was increasingly displeased with Bondi's handling of the Epstein case because she had publicly overpromised and underdelivered disclosures about the Epstein client list that apparently never existed, Axios reported. Pam said her piece, Dan said his piece. It didn't end on friendly terms, said one person, according to the outlet. And there's an interesting clip, an older clip of Dan Bongino talking about the Epstein case.
Yeah.
So, Blake, one thing you and I can agree on with this is that this story is not going away. Pam Bondi's got to come out and make some kind of statement. We got a lot of problems here. We got a lot of problems with this.
There is, and especially when the president campaigned on this. I mean, that was a big part of it, that they were going to release all this information. He basically stated it, and I think the problem here is that the overpromise, underdeliver. Yeah, that's maybe a lighter statement to it. I think MAGA, it's part of their DNA. They want justice. They want to see what's going on. Nobody's believing that Epstein was just some creep by himself. Nobody, because we know Maxwell's in jail, right? So there we go. We've got Maxwell in jail for recruiting, technically minors for sex, and doing that kind of work that we're knowledgeable on. Apparently, there's a lot of that case that has never come out. But I would do agree on one point, is that as people believe it to be a espionage type of honeypot situation where you've got intelligent, it's an intelligent run system, which is completely abhorrent if they're doing that to children. That alone discredits the whole thing. The point is that they're saying that there is a number of the client lists who are actually technically victims, because they were, who knows, thought maybe they were meeting, and I'm not defending it. I'm just, again, speculating that there's a number of people who went to the island, maybe thought they were just going to hang out and do business with Epstein.
Yeah.
And just to go and hang out. And it was a polite invitation from a billionaire to another billionaire. Hey, come hang out. They went to the island and they wanted something from this person. All they had to do is have the guy pass out, go to bed, right? And all of a sudden he wakes up with a bunch of photos with him with a 15-year-old girl,
or boy,
or whatever. And they wake up to that. They go, "We've got photos now. You're going to do what you tell us, or else this is going across everywhere, and your life will be destroyed." So there is victims. I'm probably going to agree. They're going to have to go through all of this, all these people, and try to substantiate if what was happening on the island, which was entrapment, and these guys didn't do anything wrong. They may got drunk and passed out in their bed and woke up with the wrong person in bed, and they were slipped in there just for the photo op, or which ones were actually part of it. And I think that's the thing, is Epstein, if Epstein's running this, he's not the boss then. He's got a boss. He would have been doing that by somebody else. So if it was a CIA, Mossad / MI5 operation conglomerately, to do this, to get control of some people, that really wakes up a lot of people to who's behind it all. And we need to know. And I was listening to a podcast this morning talking about this exact issue, that there's this concern that where are all the arrests? Right? There has been some arrests, but where are all of the people at the top?
We haven't had one big name arrested.
Not yet, not one. And it's just like, let's get some big names. Like I said, they're going after Brennan. They're going after, Comey.
Yeah. Because if they don't, what the fuck is going to happen to Trump when his term's up, and God forbid the Dems get control? I think what's her name? What's her name? Crockett, whatever the hell she is.
Yeah.
She's already said basically we're coming at you. We're coming with everything we got to, every document, every memo. We're going to go over everything you've done. So that
and I think Pam Bondi and Trump should have come out together and said, listen, this is a massive case. Like, we can't just release the list because there's innocent victims potentially in here. We need to go and research every single one of them. We need to go to every single person. This is going to take a couple years of investigation, and we're putting a full-time team to do this. Once we know who's what and where, we're going to start laying charges. If people are connected to this, we're going to go after them. That's, at least I can understand. They just got in. It's been covered up until January 22nd, right? He took over office. He gets his people in. It took a couple months really to get a bunch of his cabinet approved. So, to give Trump credit, I mean, he's trying to do all these other things at once. He's not God, folks. And I think some people try to deify him. He's a human being trying to manage a disaster at so many levels, not just Epstein. We've got, Diddy and Epstein, like both of them are kind of tied, but you've got all of these other issues, like these NGOs that were all tied to USAID and all those entities. He's got, wars on different fronts that have been spurred on by arguably the same people who are organizing this.
Well, and keep in mind that these are the rulers of this world. So what we're going after, we aren't going after petty criminals.
Yeah,
here.
this is principalities of power here.
Vested, powerful interests, people, the multi-billionaires like Bill Gates. That guy's not easy to take down, or George Soros.
Or the Federal Reserve, for crying out loud. He's not on the same page with the Federal Reserve, and those guys are at odds. So who's all connected to this? It's got to take some time. But they got to but don't blow it off. That's Trump's biggest mistake. Don't blow it off. Like, don't try and say, why do you want to talk about this? That's a shame. You got children that are dying in Texas. That's a separate matter, but just answer the question directly. Yeah, we're researching it. There's a lot to go in here. We're doing it. And Bongino's face, I'm still go back to that. Him and Kash Patel in that interview looked like they were deer in headlights. And there could be some truth to that Axiom story, but again, they're kind of, the source might not be
it may not good. It won't be, it'll be.
But Bongino's getting hammered because he's got an interest in Rumble. He's a guy that's gone full tilt with Epstein files. And he had that look. Whenever you see a confident Bongino, the confident Bongino versus, I'm having to lay out bullshit here and I'm not happy with it, or something scared the pants off of him because he looked like a ghost.
Well, I don't think anything scared him. I just think he's between a rock and a hard place.
Well, maybe he realized just how deep the deep state really is. He knows how powerful they are.
He knew how it ended. Listen, man, oh boy. There's information about 4 years ago. I read a post on, let's say, on 8chan network, and it said, you have no idea how unbelievably deep and wide the swamp is. It's in every facet of life, in every corner. And we see this. I mean, movie stars, products that we purchase, the CEOs, that guy up here in Canada, the President's Choice. I live close to a superstore, Canada superstores, right? Those things.
Loblaws.
Yeah, those stores like that. And the president of that thing is all in with, elbows up, and the Canadian government and the woke thing. And he's just been bought, co-opted. He's part of the problem, right?
Yeah.
And he has
part of the monopoly
control over the food system, right?
Well, and that's the rigged system that people are mad about. That's the difference why I argue with Marxists and socialists out there and saying they're going, capitalism is the problem.
Yeah.
Capitalism is not the problem. Crony capitalism allied to corrupt champagne socialists who are running their governments, who allow those monopolies because it allies to that socialist belief, which basically becomes fascism.
Now, we got a minute to go. So, I mean, this show goes by so quick, especially when we get into this quagmire of a topic. Blake, answer, did Trump make a deal with the deep state?
I have no idea. I mean, that's something people are speculating that he's using the Epstein files as a way to get the deep state under his thumb and to do what he wants. Everything from judges to corporations to politicians.
They tried to kill him. They tried to kill him. There's no deal with the deep state. Otherwise, you'd see immediately CBS, NBC, ABC, CNN, Fox. Everybody would be doing flip tails going, he's the greatest guy we've ever seen. We just love him. President Trump doing some remarkable work today as the economy is showing signs that we've got an improvement like we haven't seen in ages. Doing great work, President Trump. Oh, here he is with his new boyfriend, Bert, who's just come out of and he's just embraced Bert. And we just love this president so much, and we love First Man Bert. If they would do a flip right around, the narrative would end. The fact that the narrative has an end, that they want him gone to the same extent that they're gritting teeth, that you got Newsom going out, it's little farm labor children, little cherubs, working to put food on America's breakfast table. How dare you? How dare you, President Trump? It's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, you could look at when he got elected and they knew they couldn't kill him, and you saw some pretty big characters who were hardcore Dems funding the Democratic machine to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions over time. You had like Zuckerberg doing a complete 180. You had Jeff Bezos all of a sudden a complete 180. So maybe there is some facts that maybe he has some shit on those guys now.
That's a different story. Yeah.
Those guys all flipped. They flipped pretty fast.
Yeah,
they're all buddy.
Well, Trump went after the tech industry, so maybe he had some information on the tech giants, right? Elon Musk can be included in that bunch. Ladies and gentlemen, sad to report, it's 1:02 already. The hour goes by fast. Patreon people, if you want to support me financially, Blake doesn't have a Patreon. Do you have a Patreon, Blake?
No, I don't. No,
okay.
I don't have a Patreon. I don't have a I don't have any of those monetized systems yet. I do have a bit on Facebook, but it's more for traffic.
Okay, I hear you. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, there is my Patreon. If you want, it's $5 a month. It's a non-political thing, mostly about music and stuff. But I appreciate all the support. And for $5 a month, right, we do about 3 shows a week, which I think that's good enough in this day and age. We're here on Monday. Blake and I'll be back. Now, do we get you on Monday? I know Monday could be a busy day for you.
I'm not sure, but I would try. I may be on the road into the interior of British Columbia on Monday, but I will let you know for sure.
Yeah. Moderna getting a new contract problem. See, we could go on forever.
Yeah.
The Ukraine is part of that minerals deal. It's not like Trump's willing to go out and go, let's give the Ukraine this, that. Remember, there's a lot of power in there that have interest in Ukraine. We know what Ukraine is. Ukraine is a hopeless cause. We know it's a hopeless cause. Anybody, if you don't know what's going on over there, I can't help you. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for being with us. Blake and I, me in particular, I know I got to get the hell out of here. Take care, Blake.
Get the food. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Peace out, everybody. We love you. Thumbs up.